Hello, fight fans. Thanks for joining us at MMA Insider. Before we get rolling with today's news, show some love by hitting that like button and subscribing. Now let's uncover the latest happenings in MMA. Starting off, Dricus du Plessis focused on Khamzat Chimaev next, not Alex Pereira following UFC 312. Moving on, Belal Muhammad trashes Sean Strickland following UFC 312 loss. Lastly, top MMA coach grills Sean Strickland following UFC 312 loss. After another successful title defense at UFC 312, Dricus du Plessis is looking at what's next. And it isn't Alex Pereira, despite his post-fight tease. Du Plessis shared the octagon with Sean Strickland a second time this past Saturday. The two headlined UFC 312 inside the Kudos Bank Arena in Sydney, Australia for Dricus middleweight gold. While their first fight ended via split decision in a competitive 5-round war, things played out quite differently in the rematch. Du Plessis was a step ahead of Strickland throughout the fight and busted his opponent's nose pretty bad en route to a unanimous decision win. During his post-fight interview, Du Plessis teased a possible showdown with Alex, but he knows the UFC light heavyweight champion isn't next for him. Alex Pereira is preparing for his next 205-pound title defense against Magomed Ankalaev, which is scheduled for March 8th. If he gets past Ankalaev, don't expect him to meet Dricus du Plessis next. That's because Khamzat Chimaev has made a clear case for the next middleweight title fight. During the UFC 312 post-fight press conference, Du Plessis showed respect for Pereira, but said Chimaev has to be his next challenger. I have the world of respect for Alex Pereira. I think he's the world's pound-for-pound best. I have the most respect for what he's done in such a short period of time in the UFC, to come from another sport and what he's done there. So yes, I want to share the octagon with that man. I want to beat that guy. I've beaten Adesanya. Who's beaten him? I know I can beat him at 205 pounds, 100%, but Khamzat is next. Khamzat is next. Chimaev submitted Robert Whittaker in the first round of their October 2024 showdown. Whittaker's bottom teeth were pushed in, causing great pain and forcing an immediate tap out from a face crank. Belal Muhammad believes Sean Strickland exposed himself in the main event of UFC 312. Strickland challenged Dricus du Plessis for the UFC middleweight championship in a rematch this past Saturday. Strickland didn't find much success at all this go-around. Du Plessis outstruck him throughout the fight. Strickland failed to find a way to increase his activity and ended up losing the bout via unanimous decision. Muhammad weighed in after the fight, and he didn't mince words for Strickland. In a new video posted on social media, Belal Muhammad added insult to injury, bashing Sean Strickland for having a volatile personality, but not having the fighting style to show for it. I've been saying it forever, Sean sucks. He's trash, he talks a big game, but he never walks. Even to the fans, sit there and hype him up. He has the best boxing defense, this, and that. He's gonna go to war, and he's gonna kill. I would bleed for my fans, I would die for my fans, blah, blah, blah. But you go out there and he just jabs and teeps, and he fights like a scared little girl. He doesn't want to get hit, and even when you're down 4 rounds, he doesn't go all out. He doesn't have it in him unless it's 5 seconds left in the fight. He wants people to say he's crazy, he's nuts, he's not. He's just a racist little clown that's hiding in a body of a fighter. He's a coward. Muhammad and Strickland have been at odds over the past few months. The UFC welterweight champion has said he wouldn't mind moving up to 185 pounds to settle his beef with Strickland. Time will tell if the two will eventually share the octagon. One renowned MMA coach believes Sean Strickland has been selling snake oil. Strickland attempted to become a 2-time UFC middleweight champion when he shared the octagon with Dricus du Plessis a second time at UFC 312. While their first encounter was a competitive 5-rounder that ended in a split nod for DDP, the rematch was a different story. Strickland couldn't put his foot on the gas and du Plessis made him pay. Dricus took this one via unanimous decision as he was constantly a step ahead on the feet. At the conclusion of UFC 312, one top head coach believes Strickland's fighting style doesn't match his personality. During the UFC 312 post-show, Din Thomas expressed his belief that for as erratic as Sean Strickland's personality is, his work inside the octagon is quite the opposite. We just have to admit it now. We have to admit it. Sean Strickland is not who he says he is. He's not who he says he is. We want him to be something. He wants to be something, but he's not that guy. He's not the guy who's going to go to the death. To the death. He didn't go to the death. He didn't even go deep. I'm not saying he's not a great fighter. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be where he's at, but he's not who he says he is. We've got to admit that. Strickland is now 0-2 against Dricus du Plessis. He is further away from his hopes of winning UFC gold a second time. UFC CEO Dana White did have some praise for Strickland. He mentioned Strickland's ability to stay in the fight after getting his nose shattered by Dricus. White also mentioned Strickland's personality not being the same as his fighting style, but he was complimentary of the former 185-pound title holder for his professionalism inside the cage. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Your dedication and support fuel our passion to bring you the latest and greatest in the MMA world. If you enjoyed today's news, please give us a thumbs up and share it with fellow MMA fans. Remember to subscribe to stay in the loop with daily MMA updates. We've got a lot of exciting news, interviews, and analysis coming your way every single day. Your engagement helps us grow and serve the MMA community even better. Once again, thank you for being an integral part of our daily MMA journey.